And welcome back to Value Raters Class Act Royal Ascot 2021. How are you doing? Are you winning? You're losing? You're on different? Great thing about being live on YouTube, you can even hear the dog barking in the background. Well, I try and sort that out briefly. Just do three things for me. Hopefully it'll quiet down now. What do they say? Don't work with children or animals. Perhaps I shouldn't bring my dog Fallon into the office. Guess who he's named after? If you know, then please leave me a message. You can, by the way, you can leave messages. We want to hear what you think as well. So if you've got any fancies for a Royal Ascot on Friday or Saturday, just leave us a message or even display some of the best ones for you there. I've been poring over the form all day. To be honest, the ground is going to be changing. Well, all week we've had obviously good to firm ground, which has been great. It's been consistent, but the heavens are going to open at Ascot, and it's very difficult to know how bad that ground is going to get. One thing's for sure, I think you can forget about good to firm, and we're definitely going to have some cut in the ground. I've only got one race to look at this week. I was hoping to do two, but to be honest, because of the ground conditions, I was umming and ahhing a little bit. But there's one race in particular and one horse that I think really will probably improve for conditions. But before we get on to that horse, which is currently priced 14-1, who I've got quite a strong view for, on tomorrow night, which is obviously Friday, Steve Jones, best known, he was known as Templegate at the Sun for many, many years, and can be seen on Racing TV as well as the Daily Scope, I think he writes for now, also in the Daily Mirror on a Saturday. Man with bags of experience. I'm so lucky here at Value Rater to have him write for me, and he does a big race preview every Friday night. So if you're not a member of the racing club, you can join. It's absolutely free. Just go to valuerater.co.uk. We just need your email address and you'll get all this free content. You'll get Steve Jones on Saturday, which big race preview. You'll get Andy Ayres on a Tuesday. You'll get this. You'll get heaps of great free stuff. But before we get into the tip on Friday, let's just meet Steve very quickly.
Been through the Cardiff Templegate 5 times. That's always good to see, because you know a lot of punters have the roll-ups, and when you're getting up into the 7,000-10,000 to 1 category, you know that a few people have copped a really life-changing win. All my family were jockeys. Unfortunately, I was too fat and lazy. But luckily, it's almost obligatory when you're a journalist or a tipster to be fat and lazy. So I found my natural home, and now looking forward to the next chapter with Value Rater, and I promise not to be too lazy. All my family were associated with jump racing far before I came along, and that has to be my speciality, and I love the big Saturday handicaps, and I've been looking forward to getting my teeth into some of those great races that we all know about. Well, I'm looking forward to going through all the form of the big race on Friday, and then later on Friday you'll be getting my tips, and hopefully Saturday afternoon we'll be collecting some money. Since I started in journalism, it's been racing all the way, really. I was a news reporter on the Gloucestershire Echo in Cheltenham, obviously the home of racing, so it was heavily influenced by that, but it was always my ambition to do racing journalism, and I was lucky enough to join sportinglife.com in the early days of the internet. Went on to Raceform as a race analyst, and then I had 15 years at the Sun. 10 of those was as the main Templegate tipster, and I was lucky enough to be champion Naps table winner once, when a record amount that's not been beaten since. Well, at the moment I'm doing plenty of work for Racing TV as a pundit, really enjoy it. Saturday lunchtimes on the Full SP is one of my slots. Also, I've got a column in the Daily Mirror, Value Scope, which is just started up but going quite nicely, and looking forward to adding Value Rater to the portfolio. Well, I think the one that gave me the most satisfaction was Neptune Coulanges in the 2012 Grand National at 33-1, and it was that 2 inches on the end of Neptune Coulanges' nose that were all important. The most satisfying thing is when you're having a good run and people do get in touch to say, yeah, great, thanks, I back this or back that, and you know you're making at least a little bit of a difference to some people, and we're looking to do that again with Value Rater. We're looking for the big winners on a Saturday, and I'm hoping that we can come up with a few.
Yeah, really thrilled to have Steve's been with me now for, it's probably coming up for 2 years now. He was a big signing here at Value Rater, you know, a man with so much experience, and he's given some big winners as well on a Saturday. But do sign up to our free mailing list to read Steve Jones on Saturday every Friday. Right, what you're here for, I suppose, is to find out what we fancy at Royal Ascot on Friday. So let me just bring in, let's just look at the weather first of all. As you can see, the heavens are about to open. Looks like 9 o'clock, and pretty much, even though it looks lightish rain early hours of the morning, once we get into wakey time, it looks like it doesn't stop, does it? So I think we can be sure that the ground is just going to get worse as the day really goes on. So it's difficult to firm now. I'm having a bit of a guess that the race I'll be looking at, which is the 3:05, you know, I'm thinking I've done my work on at least good to soft, but in the back of my mind, I want to find a horse that's really going to handle soft as well. You know, definitely wants to handle underfoot conditions. So that's the, look at that yellow warning there, thunderstorm. Okay, Ascot. As always, just familiarise ourselves with the actual track here. Ascot, it's not so bad for me on the flat racing, but on jumps, you know, I've always really struggled there. I've walked the track. I've done all sorts there to find out why the jump racing I struggle a little, but I'm not quite sure because I'm not so bad on the flat. One thing's for sure, it is very stiff. Make no mistake that you really have to say. I know I say that a lot, but the race we're talking about today is actually going to be the middle, just a mile and a half. And you can see here, but from here, they're uphill, turn into the straight, and then it's still uphill. So 1 mile forward, we're talking good to soft ground. Tomorrow, at least, I think, could be even worse than that. So if you just get a mile and a half on goodish ground, well, it's not going to be good enough. You know, you're going to need to stay a little bit further than that. So if you're getting involved, always look for horses that either have stayed the distance under those conditions on a stiff track, or, you know, they're going to get a little bit further. We can see here also like the 6.5 furlong start here. You can see a little bit of up and down, but undulations that probably are not so clear on the TV. But, and again, climb to the line. You really have to stay. You really have to stay well. By the way, what I'm showing you, I use GG's as my Form 2, GG's Gold. Fairly new, the last kind of year. People that have been with me have seen what it can do. And you'll see tonight that probably actually, in fairness, the actual race that I'm going to be concentrating on probably doesn't show GG's off enough, really, because it's a 3-year-old race. And we've got limited data, really, because the horses obviously are still unexposed and improving. Now, the race I want to look at, it'd be helpful if I looked at Fridays. I know the racing results today. It'd be good if we could go and back them now, wouldn't it? Ascot. So I've gone good to soft at the moment. The race I'm interested in here, 3:05. So it's not too late in the afternoon. So let's hope that it'll just be good to soft. But if it turns out to be soft, as we're going to discuss in a minute, it won't affect my selection, I don't think, here. But I'm really intrigued by this race. Ran over a mile and a half. The reason I was so keen to get the nose into it is because I had a a bit of suspicion in the week that this Alan Kerr was going to be put in fairly short, and it has as well. Not knocking the horse, he did obviously win a Group 3 last time at Sandown, which was obviously a very early Derby trial. He had the lead, he led. Up in trip now, I wasn't absolutely sure that going up in trip on what's going to be softest conditions might be too much of a test of stamina, but I don't know. I think he's put in short. Well, he is put in short because obviously the horse that he beat at Sandown has gone on to win the Derby. But that horse, I'm pretty sure, has improved an awful lot. He went on, didn't he? He went on again and he got beat the Derby winner in a Derby trial around Lingfield, and then went to the Derby and probably improved again. If we just bring up this race, this is why I really want to take the horse on. I just wonder whether this horse was completely straight on the day, and it was almost his Derby. Obviously, the second horse here went on to win the Derby. Yuba runs in this race again, been gelded since its last start. Looks a bit suspect. I'm not surprised that horse has had the operation there. Lone Eagle. You can go through this form and you can pick obviously if you use the Derby winner, you say, wowee, let's all get involved 2-1. But I'm not so sure. If you go through the rest of the horses in behind and you look how they've done, some have worked out to a level. We are talking about a Group 2 race here. And I just was desperate to be against this Alan Kerr at the prices. And I thought we might find something each way. And I think I have done. So Alan Kerr, I'll be impressed if he manages to win this. I think I'm concerned about from a stamina point of view, but I just got a feeling that horses in that race, I think he had the run of the race really, and not sure about him. He's far too short anyway, Alan Dar. Right. Who else did we have in here? I've mentioned, the Charlie Appleby horse down here. Ran in that Goodwood race, second to Lone Eagle. It was aggression, really, I thought. He obviously got beat Chester. Perhaps the gelded operation will work wonders, but it's going to. But when you're coming into these races, with group races, I think it is really important that you must have come on the back of a good run. It's very rare you'll see horses run out, disappoint, and then they go up. They come out next time in a group race and perform. As a rule, be against them. I think the preparation you've got to come off of a good run. So I wouldn't want him in the race. So what were we left with? I've just realised. Hold on, come out of here. Right, back where I would be. Okay, so gear up. We've got Mark Johnson's got to give weight. Disappointing on its last start at Epsom. I know he was beating 21. I know you can say it could have been the track, could have been this, could have been that. But again, doesn't come here in good form. Wouldn't want him. Gloucestershire. I'm not saying he's going to be up to winning this race, but this is a very nice horse. I'm going to do a bit of gloating now. I was at Kempton when this horse ran first time. He was 33-1. Me and my mate Max in the paddock, we backed it. Looked absolutely $1 million. Looked scopy. You're like 33-1. It won. Don't get me wrong. It's probably not good enough for this, but it just goes to show, don't be afraid to back a price. Use your own judgment. Who let that go off at 33-1? Well, it didn't. It finished 25-1. Now into a Group 2. Nice horse, though. Really nice horse. Probably not for this race. I'd be surprised if he's good enough, but keep an eye on him for the future. He is a nice horse. Title in here, 4-1 shot. I don't know. A Yarmouth winner coming into a Group 2. Not sure. The visual impression, I just wasn't convinced that he's going to have this sort of class myself. Mediterranean of Aidan O'Brien's. I was keen to take this on as well. watched his Leopardstown run. Funny enough, a previous race that I was looking at in the week was collaterally involved with a lot of this form. And I thought it all got let down, actually. And I just got a feeling this is a little bit below, at the moment, below Group 2 standard. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of the collateral form lines because I'll be here all day. But trust me, bits and pieces of it haven't worked out this week. And not only that, I think it was Shaman Heflin that rode at the time. But yeah, Shaman Heflin rode it at Leopardstown. And he was pushing and shoving some way out. He wasn't travelling very well for me. And I just wonder, and you've got to travel, haven't you, in these group races? You've got to be able to travel, especially somewhere like Royal Ascot. I just thought he was opposable. And this ruling, the race he did win, ruling got well turned over the other day. And again, the collateral form lines for me needs improving on. I thought he needed to be taken on around 4-1. The one I like in this race is a horse that I've had my eye on since I saw him run at Newcastle, which is Tasman Bay. Sir Mark Todd, not a sexy trainer at all. I was impressed with him at Newcastle. Let me bring this form up because he caused a bit of a surprise on the night. Well, a bit of a surprise. You'd have been on the way probably hanging from a tree if you'd have backed the second horse. He was 1-5 that day. Apologies, it's slightly slow, just loading up. Tasman Bay beat King Vega of Allen. Look at that. He was 1-5. The reason King Vega on this day was so short, because if you remember, as a 2-year-old at Sandown, he was Group 2. I'm sure it was a Group 2. He was second. So as a 2-year-old, you know this was a group of form. And Tasman Bay beat you 3.5 lengths. And I spotted it that night only because I knew what King Vega was. And I thought I'm going to keep an eye on this horse because I'm sure he's going to develop into a nice horse from 1.5 miles plus. I thought after Newcastle, I watched him with interest at Newbury. Now, this form has obviously been well and truly franked, which again shows me that this horse has got the required class for this sort of race. Hurricane Lane won the race, went on to win the Dante. Maximal, I backed this horse at 33-1 for 4 places in the week. I had a hunch that he might run well in that Group 1, and he did. He finished 4th in that race, and Tasman Bay finished 3rd. Now, this race at Newbury, they didn't go any gallop at all, which would have been against Tasman Bay. This was obviously 1.25 miles. I think 1.5 miles plus. I've got a feeling that he's on my radar a little bit. He's starting to look to me like he could be something like a St. Ledger horse. He's obviously going to have to go very close tomorrow, but that's the kind of class I think we've got here. But it wouldn't have suited. He travelled through the race well. A lot of the horses in behind, the River Alk and the Set Point, you can really pick holes in this form. But I think these 2 horses here were flattered to get to as close as the first 3 home. I just think because they went such a steady gallop. But obviously, Hurricane Lane, Maximal, we are now talking a horse that's finished 4th in a Group 1. Hurricane Lane is obviously a Group 2 winner. So he's first time out at second start at Newcastle. You know he's beating a Group 2 horse. He's come to Newbury, and okay, he was beaten in a slowly run race, but there's no disgrace in that whatsoever. And then I backed him myself. He ran against John Leaper, and I thought he might beat John Leaper on the day, who obviously went on, was fancied in the Derby, didn't show up that day. Set his own gallop. There was no pace in the race. I think I was about 8-1 I backed him that day. And again, he's been running over 1.25 miles, and he's not got the pace. We should get an even pace for this race. If we look at the pace tab here, we should have even pace at least. At the moment, it's showing good to soft. By the way, just to show you, like, usually I'm only showing sort of the graphic with GJ, show you who's running where. you can use a heat map with GGs. And what that does is it saves you. It's a shortcut rather than going to the draw. So what it does is combines the pace and the draw, ideally, basically, to where you need to be. So if you can use this as a good guide to where, you know, historically, so they just mix them both together, really. The pace and the draw, which is really handy. It's a quick reference. But personally, if you're just starting off sort of race reading, I'd recommend that you probably shoot that off and just get into the habit of going into the draw. Now, we are talking about a mile and a half race here. Now, personally, I don't give great bearing on the draw. But if you want to use this over a mile and a half, this would indicate on good to soft ground that you don't really want to be drawn low. And obviously, if I change the settings, if it turned out to be soft tomorrow, it'll probably change a little bit. All of a sudden, favours a little bit too high. But personally, over this distance with the field size, I wouldn't overlook at that for this race. But Tasman Bay, I am absolutely sure he'll get the trip. In fact, you know, that won't be the excuse tomorrow. I think ultimately he might well turn into a mile 6 horse. That's why I'm thinking maybe for a St. Leger. When I'm looking for a St. Leger winner, even though it's ran over a mile 6 and half a furlong, the people tend to think that you just got to stay. Well, that's not quite true. You know, you've got to prove to win a Leger, you need pace as well. And my criteria is to find a horse that has actually won at a mile to show it's got a certain amount of speed. And of course, Tasman Bay at least has done that. And say last 2 starts, both slowly run at Newbury and at Newmarket. He had to set his own pace, and Norman gave John Leaper a bit of a fright, really. Only went down a length and 3/4. I think the step up in Tribber helped. Now, ground-wise, we can see that so far both runs been on good ground. Newcastle, standard to slow, and his only run on, well, it was heavy conditions, was first time out. We can get a little bit deeper. If we look into... I hope you can, let me just bring that down a little bit. We can look, and I've already checked this. But we can check to see the performance on the ground from his father, basically. And we can see that 14.81% on the ground, and then that is good to soft. I have checked to see if it was soft ground. Also, his father had won on soft ground. So I just think with the ground conditions, where you're really going to need a mile and a half, you're going to need to stay further than that. And I think he does. I think that's what he wants. I can see massive improvement. If we go over to Odds Checker, look at this, 14-1. You know, that is a cracking investment for me, that is. I'll be disappointed if he's out the frame. Fortunately, all on the high street, it's only 3 places. If he was trained by someone else, I mean, if we go into the trainer form, the last 14 days, I mean, he's had no runners, has he? I mean, he doesn't, you know, it's hard to gauge from that. But let's look at the jockey and trainer combo. Look at this. David Probert. Interestingly, this GG's Gold that I'm using, they sponsor David Probert. And I can understand why, because he's very underestimated for, you know, you only have to look at his stats and things, David Probert. But look at this. Training jockey combo. Cool. 21%, 0.43, win, 42.86 in the place. Look at that. Lovely. As I say, the trainer for me hadn't had enough runners really to gauge anything from that. He could be a Leger horse, and everything might just come right. To be honest, if it was good ground or good to fun, I would be a little bit concerned that he might not have enough pace. But because it's going to be, the underfoot conditions are going to be pretty, well, they're going to go a bit, you need to stay. I like him. I had my eye on him since Newcastle. He's very progressive. Looks very progressive. And And I think he might surprise a few people, because I think this, as I said, this Alan Kerr, I don't know. I've got to be against that. I've got to take that on. Say, gosh, you know, Mediterranean, I've given him reasons why I went tidal, up 3 classes, and Yarmouth. I appreciate, you know, at least he's got Group 1 track form at Newby but he was beat both of those days. I don't know. I think this Tasman Bay for me. Yeah. He will do for me. And if you want to get involved, it's 12 to 1. I've just got to make sure you're always nervous. Personally, I will just hang fire a little bit, because in the morning, if you start getting runners being taken out, then you're left. But to be honest, even if it was 1-2, I probably still would back it. Probably just back it straight win. But hey, you have your own way of doing things. But yeah, quite keen on that horse's chances there. Let's just check if... No, we got nothing in there. Well, good. So just the one today. As I said, because of the conditions, and I just think that horse Willing, I think he will be right up his street tomorrow. I do. Dare I say it? I think we have payday tomorrow. Looks easy on paper, doesn't it? You know, reality is something different. Well, thanks for joining me. I will be back again 7 o'clock next week. I'm either going to be a hero or a villain, but whatever, with that horse, I'm absolutely sure that he will develop into a very high quality horse, even if it's not tomorrow. Keep an eye on him and follow his career, because that's what I'm doing. That's what I like to do. I like to identify horses early in their career through early collateral form lines and just follow them through. And let's see how he does tomorrow. But until next week, well, have a good weekend.